All right, everybody. Hi, it's Drew Parton from Rooster Illusion Reviews, back again with another review with my good brother John.
Howdy.
He's down in Carolina. Actually, we both are. We're going to have an annual family retreat. So we decided to have a couple of drinks and watch. Someone recommended me a long time ago to return back to my roots of watching and reviewing terrible 80s movies. And so they requested I check out the 1989 Jay Leno Pat Morita flick, Collision Course. John, you want to tell us about Collision Course?
Chin Course. The plot is basically turbocharger. This Japanese company executive steals a prototype turbocharger that his auto company makes, takes it to America, and then basically it becomes like the Maltese Falcon of this movie. And a Japanese police detective, Pat Morita, is sent to retrieve it, and then Jay Leno fucks everything up.
So, I don't know where to start about this movie. I think, much like a lot of terrible movies reviewed before, it's confusing.
Well, first of all, it's the most boring plot in the world. Like it's like going after like it's like the Russians have stolen our idea for anti-lock brakes.
Yeah,
it's to get it back.
It reminded me of The Other Guys, the plot of that, where it's a caper, but it's kind of a lame caper. It's like this white collar crime. It's not a huge thing. But where in The Other Guys, that was played for comedy, this is straight serious about it. Like, that is what they're going after. It's not like, oh, haha, it's meant to be a lame caper. It's,
I don't know.
People die over this.
Maybe
a lot
in
of
the 80s. Well, like, maybe in the 80s, turbochargers were like the equivalent of, I don't know, like maglev technology today.
But they use it in the car, and it doesn't really appear to go that far.
Oh, God. We also have to talk about the old lady driving the turbocharged car later. But, yeah, it's a stupid plot. There are way too many twists that make no impact on the overall final possession of the turbocharger. So to set the cultural context because we're going to talk a lot. This movie's very racist, first of all.
I thought some Jack.
I'm sad. I'm sad that both of our podcasts have dealt with incredibly racist
things.
So this is really discriminatory against the Japanese. Pat Morita, great guy, great actor.
Mr.
Miyagi. The whole movie, they call him Tojo. There's a lot of just blatant racism against the Japanese.
Before they know he's a Japanese police officer, Jay Leno arrests him in a misunderstanding, and they bring him in, and the police, like, interrogator's like, you understand what I'm saying?
Oh my God, yeah.
I speak a little Japanese.
Toyota, Mitsubishi,
Honda.
I don't know why Detroit has a southern accent, but yeah.
All racism has a southern accent. Your voice box automatically does it whenever you say something racist.
Right.
Medicine.
So this was in a time around the 1980s when we were huge competitors to Japan, especially in the auto market.
No. We weren't competitors. They were kicking our ass.
Okay, well, they were competitors in that Brazil and Germany were competitors. Being topical.
Japan. Yeah. Japan, stop.
So, yeah, they were kicking the shit out of our auto market back in the 1980s, same time Toyota and Mitsubishi had really started to hit their stride in the market.
Well, steel and consumer electronics and all that stuff.
And this takes place in Detroit, the Motor City, so it kind of makes a little bit of sense, this caper, but that's a lot of the mindset that was going on was this kind of shit their pants fear over the loss of jobs and the gradual, yet steadily shrinking American auto market.
And people thought Japan was going to take over the world in the 80s.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of the fear about China today.
Yeah. And you can see in, like, Blade Runner and Michael Douglas, Black Rain, stuff like that.
So that's, I think a lot of the racism in this movie was that kind of being expressed, but it was hard to tell whether or not that was kind of meant to be like these people are racist. I don't know if they were condemning or wholeheartedly going with those actions.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was like, oh, these people are racist, but it's only because they're afraid that they're going to lose their jobs and their city's going to shut down, or if it was, haha, let's talk about Godzilla and like Hirohito.
Because like most foreign buddy cop movies, this is kind of like almost like Red Heat, which I've reviewed before, and it's almost like Rush Hour, except usually they come together and they bond over things. Jay Leno's still a racist asshole throughout the whole thing. He never changes towards that. He's still a gigantic cockbag and a racist to Pat Morita and a womanizing pig. And not even a successful one at that.
I feel like womanizing implies that he's actually had some women. He has this thing where he'll like be talking to,
anything like a hole in a heartbeat.
Yeah, well, he'll be asking questions of a witness or like a person that he wants information from, and it's usually an attractive woman, and he's always like, hey, can I get your home phone number? I want to call you when this evidence comes in, and she's always like, ha ha ha, fuck off.
But there's that, and I'm never quite sure if the makers meant to condemn that or ignore it or just...
He just comes off as pathetic. He just comes off as like... It's like, if you were a more successful policeman, you could definitely get them.
And I'm definitely... I know why Jay Leno tried to bury this. I know why he is ashamed of it. Hell, the studio was ashamed of this. Movie was filmed in 1986. Didn't get released until 1989. Possibly because they ran out of money.
Shelved for 3 years.
Yeah, which is... huge.
Well, you found on IMDb, Pat Morita came on the Tonight Show.
Yes, when this finally came out in 1989. They talked about how they ran completely out of funding the second to last day of filming. They had no money for anything post-production, so that might be why it was delayed. That and probably the racism. I imagine there's a lot of worse things on the cutting floor.
But see, like, you'd think that if it was about the racism... After 3 years, when it was clear Japan wasn't taking over the Western Hemisphere, they would have been like, holy crap, we've got to just destroy this. I think it was the money. I think they spent 3 years being like, hey, this guy Jay Leno's up and coming, might be doing it over the Tonight Show, and like going around and asking for money to finish it.
Yeah.
And finish it they did.
They did. So we discussed kind of the stupidity of the plot, and I've been racking my brain for a long time. I'm not quite sure who the villain is or what they're doing. They introduce the henchman right in the beginning, but they don't really introduce the villain until
like fucking 45 minutes in the movie.
Later than
he's not the real villain.
He's not the real villain. He's just a stooge of the villain. They don't really introduce him until maybe the last 30 minutes, and then he's only in there for 10 of that.
Yeah. Okay, so, first of all, the Japanese executive who steals the Turbo Superman Charger... gets killed by the big bad's henchman.
Yeah, Leonard Smalls from Raising Arizona is in this.
Yeah,
he killed him.
And they're like, "Where's the turbocharger? Where's the turbocharger, Lebowski?" And he doesn't tell them, and he has a heart attack. So then, much later in the movie, literally like 45 minutes goes by before you meet any kind of actual villain, as opposed to just mooks.
And Kurt Russell.
And
Jay Leno's racism.
And Jay Leno.
That's really the villain.
Racism is always the real villain.
So you don't meet anyone except for a couple minor mooks, and I guess, the dragon to the big bad. Mm. But he gets maybe 10 minutes of total screen time, and nowhere in it is his plot really established. I don't know what he was going to do with the supercharger besides maybe make cars, make money, and corner the market.
Well, okay, but that's one of the bad guys.
That's one.
Because there's two bad guys, and one of them is in quotes. One of them is an auto executive who named Jared, and there were many he went to Jared jokes. One of them is named Jared. He's an auto executive. He's putting out a new car called the Starburst.
Yeah. Using the Starscreen.
Well, he hasn't even installed it yet. He's like being really vague in this press conference, and he's like, "Oh, I can promise you that the performance is going to blow everyone out of the water," and no specifics. Thank you, goodbye. And then he goes to the criminals that were trying to get the supercharger, and he's like, "Hey, you didn't get me my supercharger. Deal's off." And then the big bad is like, "Just kidding," reversal. I'm the big bad now, and I own you, and my henchman's going to follow you around. And you're like, what? Why? How?
I don't know what he was trying to do. I think he was just trying to make money out of the car salesman. I have no idea what he was doing. He had no sure plot. There was no reason to root against him except for he's a bad guy. And he looks like a very skinny Hall, and he looks like a skinny Oates, rather. And from Hall & Oates. And I guess he's just trying to make money, and he...
But he's so a bad guy. Visible as a bad guy, though.
Yeah, he does his own dirty work. I think it's nice that he does his own dirty work. But he goes out there and he kills people. But he's like this real estate developer, entrepreneur, philanthropist. And he's out there shooting at Pat Morita and Jay Leno just pretty visibly in the middle of the audience, or in the middle of broad daylight.
That's at the ending. Before that, The first scene where Jay Leno and my God, where this movie's just fucked our brains. We're jumping around all over the place. Before that, Jay Leno and Pat Morita, the first time they encounter this guy is at this like grand opening of a free medical clinic.
Yeah,
he's set up. And Jay Leno comes out like a drunken, like Mel Gibson, just like screaming at him and being like, "We're gonna take it down!"
He's never met this guy. He doesn't even know this guy's a bad person.
No. He does know he's like tied to the bad guys. Knows nothing, has no evidence. Comes at him like a fucking spider monkey, and just like starts. It's just ridiculous. And you're like, Jay Leno, where is this anger coming from?
We're just. This movie has fucked our brains, I think, is the thing. I think really. Well, we'll get to it, but I think the ending is just...
The ending totally removes it, in my opinion.
Yeah, but it's... I think we sat there for 15 minutes just staring into the screen.
It's like a...
Usually we wait a whole day after review to kind of coalesce our thoughts, but this is kind of just stream of consciousness after that.
I've still got a semi from the ending.
So do we want to talk about the duo of Jay Leno
Do we want to talk about Pat Morita? I'm very sad that he had to play like the 8... He actually says... the phrase "read my lips" in the movie.
Oh my god!
Which is abbreviated RMR for you kids who like tech speak.
He has a lot of that kind of like Charlie Chan yellow face bullshit, but he's Asian.
You're right.
It's just
right.
Oh man!
You get the sense because you've seen him in the Karate Kid. He's made a career out of this stuff, but it seems more pronounced in this movie.
Okay, so he's obviously not a spring chicken.
Mr. Reno,
but he
has to find a turbocharger.
It is that. It's that same kind of character.
Not exaggerating.
And Jay Leno is not a likable protagonist, is what I think we decided on.
No, because he's racist. Calling back to the fucking Transformers Revenge of the Fallen review, it's like when you find out that SpongeBob voiced one of the black stereotypes, you're like, no, SpongeBob. And Jay Leno here is just like a racist, like. I remember the one scene where he's like Pat Morita is talking on the phone to his superior in Japan, and Jay Leno is like overdubbing it, being like, "Godzilla's attacking the city! Don't leave your homes! Everybody get inside! Everybody!" And it's like, oh my god, is he supposed to? Yeah. They're going for the like Harry Callahan, the dirty Harry, like. I hate everybody, and then he has a Mexican partner, but then he gets better,
But there's no arc. He doesn't get better. He's still racist, like the last line of the movie, right before the split-screen freeze-frame finish. But
that's right. This movie finishes on not only a freeze-frame.
Split screen,
2 freeze frames.
We were thinking that, and this might be because it came out before Jay Leno started to rise to fame, but... It doesn't feel like Jay Leno in this movie. It feels like someone doing a very convincing Jay Leno impersonation.
Well, I think it's exacerbated by his character. Because his character is very fast-talking, supposedly charming.
We thought... so this movie was directed by the same dude who did Jewel of the Nile, the sequel to Romancing the Stone. And we thought this felt a lot like the role was written with Michael Douglas from Jewel of the Nile in mind.
Well, because Michael Douglas is much more charming than Jay Leno.
True, but it felt a lot like that character, whereas Jay Leno kind of just comes off as an asshole.
He almost feels like he comes off as that guy who, in college, who never manages to score, but God bless him, he's trying. And he's always just like... And even, there's a couple scenes where he manages competency, but...
There were a few...
blatant disregard for...
There were a few moments in this movie where we both genuinely laughed.
Yeah.
And when the movie was trying to be funny.
Yeah. Those moments did not often...
Yeah, as opposed to the ending where we fucking died in laughter for 20 total minutes after the credits had long rolled. We're not even laughing, just pretty much screaming in hysteria. Where the movie tried to play it completely straight. This is a solid action piece. So Pat Morita,
I broke my ribs laughing.
Pat Morita's character doesn't know karate. He makes that abundantly clear, which is nice.
First of all, it's weird that he's such a caricature of the Japanese.
But that's the point they avoided.
Does not know any martial arts.
And then after all that. I don't know why I decided to do it, but and this is not a joke. This is the actual climax of the movie. So the bad guy shooting Jay Leno and Pat Morita in broad daylight in front of a lot of people.
You might have seen the clip on any of Jay Leno's rivals.
Trying to run the two of them down an alleyway with a car, and out of fucking nowhere, Pat Morita runs absolute batshit screaming.
Sprinting at the car.
Screaming and sprinting at the bad guy's car, and in the most inexplicably awesome moment of movie history, he fucking leaps and does a 2-footed flying kick through the windshield of the bad guy's car, crushing his head.
He becomes a human kamikaze.
That's a little racist.
And he becomes a human kamikaze, breaks through the windshield, and flattens the big bad's head against the headrest of the car. And I imagine it was grisly because they never cut back to his head after that.
No, you just see kind of Pat Morita, like, he still stays in there and swerves and crashes into it.
That was the thing. The ending of this was a masterpiece of comedy because...
But it was played entirely serious. This was an action set piece. This wasn't zany slapstick comedy.
But it was a masterpiece of comedy because after the flying human missile through the windshield, Pat Morita, the lower half of his body is stuck in this car. His feet like mired in this man's brain fragments. And the car starts swerving around the alley, and Pat Morita's like arms are flailing, and his body's like, because he's stuck in the windshield. It's just like, read my ribs. Oh man, that would have been the best thing ever if he had said that. Read my ribs
before leaping there. He kind of just screamed. I think, in my opinion, I don't know. I wouldn't recommend this film. I don't know if you would.
Oh, I would recommend this film. I don't regret watching it.
Me neither. I just don't know if I'd actively seek out Collision Course. If you want to see the Pat Morita clip, again, we'll include it in the video.
But, watch the clip. But, I don't know. The movie was... It's a time capsule from before Detroit was like the realm of the Fisher King.
We talked about how... Jingle All the Way felt a lot like a time capsule of the 90s. This feels a lot like a time capsule of a brief period in the 80s when we thought Japan was going to take over the country.
And when Detroit was declining. And also, we forgot to mention, there's a great scene where Pat Morita is like in Detroit for the first time. And he's glancing out of this taxi cab with a kind of smile on his face. But he's glancing at, like, you see like a sign, Grand Prix in Detroit.
It almost looks whimsical, but he's just looking at rundown Detroit.
And then he sees like prostitutes.
Yeah.
But he's still, like, smiling. And you can't tell whether he's, like I don't know if they were trying to convey
whimsy or whether he's, like, we own you.
We have destroyed your city. Behold.
Oh, God. So
I do think that kick redeems the entire movie, though.
The whole movie is worth that kick?
Yes. I haven't laughed that hard in months.
Well, there you have it. Watch Collision Course to set up the greatest kick in cinematic history. So, we recently, and by recently I mean a couple months ago, on our last video, Jingle All the Way, we got a couple of questions, well, one question and 2 comments, that we thought we'd finally address since we're both together. So, our first comment is from Annie B, who simply says, quote, "Your brother is really good at impressions."
Or there you see if I've gotten on top of the tractor trailer and this man is frozen. Then you see here I got the gun and he's the bad guy, so I have to shoot the bad guy.
Thanks, Annie.
So there you go.
Not Jay Leno impressions, though.
No, it sounds like Jay Leno doing a Jay Leno impression.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds at least 2 degrees away.
But what I hope is his real name and an alien visitor, Thorax12, writes, "What's a movie that, while good, you'd never see again for various reasons?"
Do you want to go first?
I honestly, I've been racking my brain on this. I don't know if I could think of one for movies. Probably Old Boy.
Yeah, I actually just thought of a good one for movies.
Great movie. I don't think I'd want to watch it again. It just makes me squirm. Definitely in terms of video games. I mean, Last of Us, Bioshock Infinite, Spec Ops: The Line. Yeah. Things I wouldn't say again because I just need to go curl up in a ball and cry afterwards.
Yeah. You know, for movies, I just thought of Stalingrad. The original.
Oh, yeah, from the
director
guys who did Das Boot.
The guys who did Das Boot.
Yeah, Das Boot and Stalingrad. Fantastic films. I would recommend them, but I'm not watching them again.
Yeah, both of them are probably some of the best anti-war movies I've ever seen. Just because they're so brutally, unrelentingly depressing about the realities of warfare. It's like a vaccine or something. You get it once and then you're like, oh. Okay.
And then it gives you autism?
Yes. Yes, it does.
Those are the anti-vaxxers in our crowd out there.
Or super AIDS.
Okay, so our last comment doesn't really apply to us, I guess. But Kyle ST, maybe he's a saint or a street, said that we ought to do more video game and music reviews on Rooster Illusions. Now, I hate to correct you, Kyle, but there was a fantastic drunken review of Pajama Sam by our very own Chris Melville. But that's something to think about, James, I guess. In the meantime...
I counter, why don't you do music and video game reviews, Kyle's?
Maybe he doesn't, we don't know.
Well, then send him in, Kyle's. Maybe we'll like him.
Kyle's. Okay, well, from both of us here, we'd like to thank you guys. There you have it. Go out, check out Collision Course. Don't pay for it.
Please don't.
I'll advocate
the
pirating
ghost of Martin Luther King Jr. will cry if you pay.
I think Jay Leno would advocate not buying it. He probably doesn't see a cent from it.
But be sure to mention it to him if you ever see him on the street.
If you ever see him in real life, ask him how Pat Morita's doing. Ask him about his... he's a big car person. Do you think that was a reason for this film? He's a huge car collector.
I don't know if he was famous enough at this point to have... I mean, in the movie, he has like a really classic car. Yeah. That would have been... You were saying this...
It's stolen in a heartbeat in Detroit.
Yeah, I don't know if he was famous enough to have his like his plantation of cars. Well, because he's got his garages.
Yeah. He drives a different one each day. Yeah. So maybe that was or maybe this movie made him want to develop a prototype supercharger like that. That's
the one good thing to come out of this movie. Jim Leno was like, what's really racist in that? Pat Morita, it was okay, but cars, they're pretty cool. I want to buy a bunch of them and put them in the garage. I'm so sorry, Annie B.
So, God damn it. There you have it. Pat Morita and Jay Leno's performances left us supercharged. Go out and check it for yourself. In the meantime, be sure to, I guess, like and favorite us, follow us, do all those kinds of neat internet things. You can also check out our hot merchandise on Redbubble. In the meantime, we'll see you people at the movies.